Cognitive development and its pedagogical implications. So, in this chapter, we will review different teaching approaches and various teaching implications when it comes to understanding cognitive development and intelligence. Intended learning outcome is to develop teaching strategies that promote cognition. Engage. How is knowing about brain functioning integral in developing teaching strategies for children? Children will have more difficulty focusing their attentions and maintaining it for very long in early childhood, but their attentions will improve as they move through the elementary school years. So this is due to the myelination process. Myelination happens fastest during infancy when processing of external environment is important, so the child realizes that the environment is not an extension of himself or herself. The following are teaching strategies to teach learners on Piaget cognitive development theory. Teaching strategies for working with free operational thinkers. So we have 4 stages of cognitive development. 1 is sensory motor stage. 2 is a pre-operational stage. 3 is a concrete operational. 4 is a formal operational stage. So pre-operational stage is second stage of Jean Piaget theory of cognitive development, that age of 2 to 7 years of old. So these are teaching strategies for working with pre-operational. A. Have children manipulate groups of objects. B. Involve children in social interactions to reduce egocentrism. C. Is ask children to make comparisons. So this might involve such as concept as bigger, taller, wider, heavier, and longer. D. Give children experience in ordering operations. Next is have children draw scenes with perspective. F is construct an inclined plane or hills. So let's children's roll marbles of various sizes. Down the different sizes, marbles reach the bottom. So this should help them understand the concept of speed. Next is ask children to justify their answers when they draw conclusions. Teaching strategies for working with concrete operational thinkers. So, dito po nabibilang ang bilang ng isang bata na 7 to 11 years old. Teaching strategies for working with concrete operational thinkers. A is to encourage students to discover concepts and principles. B. Involve children in operational tasks. So this includes adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, ordering, seriating, and reversing. C. Plan activities in which students practice the concept of ascending and descending classifications hierarchies. D is include activities that require conservations of area, weight, and displaced volume. E is to create activities in which children orders and reverse orders. Next is continue as students to justify their answers when they solve problems. Next is encourage children to work in groups and exchange thoughts with each other. H is make sure that the materials in the classrooms reach enough to stimulate students' questions. Next is when trying to teach anything complex, create props and visual aids. Next is to encourage students to manipulate and experiment in science, use concrete materials in mathematics, create and act out in language, art, and discuss their perspectives with each others and take field trips in social studies. Teaching strategies for working with formal operational thinkers. So this formal operational stage is 11 years old through adulthood. A is realize that many adolescents are not full-fledged formal operational thinkers. So, next is to propose a problem and invited students to form hypotheses about how to solve it. Next is to present a problem and suggest several ways it might be approached. D. Select a particular problem that is familiar to the class and ask questions related to it. E is ask students to discuss their prior conclusions. Next is to develop project and investigations for students to carry out. Next is to encourage Encourage students to create hierarchical outlines when you ask them to write papers. Next is to recognize that adolescents are more likely to use formal operational thinking in the areas in which they have the most expertise and experience. Teaching strategies for applying PJ theory to children's educations. To sum it up, when PJ theory is to be considered, one has to remember the following. One is take a constructivist approach. PJ emphasized that children's learn best when they are active and seek solutions for themselves. 2. Facilitate rather than direct learning. 3. Consider the child's knowledge and level of thinking. 4. Use ongoing assessment. Individually constructed meanings cannot be measured by a standardized test. Math and language portfolios, which contain work in progress as well as finished products. So individual conference in which students discuss their thinking strategies and written and verbal explanations by students of their reasonings can be used to evaluate progress. Next is to promote the students' intellectual health and turn the classroom into settings of explorations and discovery.
Budget and back on education. Budget, focus on qualitative development, had an important impact on education, while Fudge did not specifically apply his theory to education. Many educational programs are built upon the belief that children should be taught at the level for which they are developmentally prepared learners. In addition to this, a number of instructional strategies have been derived from budget work. These strategies include providing a supportive environment, utilizing social interaction and fair teaching, and helping children see fallacies and consistencies in their thinking. Budget impact on education can be seen in the belief that children should be taught at their developmentally appropriate level. This means that educators should take into consideration the cognitive abilities and stage of development of each child when designing their instruction. Budget focus on qualitative development emphasize the importance of understanding how children think and learn rather than just focusing on the content to be taught. This approach encourages educators to create a supportive environment that allows for social interaction and fair teaching, as well as helping children identify fallacies and inconsistencies in their thinking. Vygotsky impact on education. Vygotsky impact on education. On the other hand, Vygotsky theory also provides practical application to education. Vygotsky wanted to help build new society, and he deliberately set out to construct a theory that addressed practical matters. As we have just seen, he tried to show how school instruction can promote child development, and he offered a new concept, the zone of proximal development, to assess each child's potential for new learning. If we want to know when a child is ready to learn, Vygotsky said, we cannot look at what the child can do when working alone. We must see how far ahead he can go when offered some assistance. When it's come to intelligence during childhood, IQ scores become more stable so that scores at one point in time are generally consistent with the score obtained at a second point. Teachers should focus on how to provide an environment that would support learning. Despite group stability, the score of individuals can fluctuate over time. Greater change are evidenced when children grow up in unstable environments. This entails point of reflection for teacher. Am I, for the, am I providing the best possible environment for my student? What is it that can I do to improve their abilities to understand more? Overall, there is both continuity and change in IQ score during childhood. IQ score remain stable for many children and mental age rise. On the other hand, creativity increased throughout early childhood and remained stable dips during elementary school. possible and respond the social that expectation to conform. Creativity is associated with faithfulness, openness to new experience, and originality, but is largely independent of intelligence. Vygotsky. Impact on education can be seen in his concept of the zone of proximal development, CPD. This concept suggests that a child's potential for new learning can be assessed by determining how far ahead they can go with some assistance. This means that educators should not only consider what a child can do on their own, but also provide the necessary support and scaffolding to help them progress further. Vygotsky theory has led to the development of instructional strategies that focus on guided learning and collaborative problem solving. For example, through reciprocal teaching, children take turns leading small groups in the use of a strategy, with the teacher guiding the process but shifting responsibility to the children themselves. When it's come to intelligence, both Fadget and Vygotsky suggest that it is not a fixed and can be influenced by environmental factors. Fadget theory emphasizes the importance of providing a supportive environment for children's cognitive development, while Vygotsky theory highlights the role of social interaction and assistance in promoting learning. This means that teachers should strive to create an environment that supports learning and provide the necessary guidance and support to help children reach their potential. Additionally, both theories acknowledge that creativity is an important aspect of development, and educators should encourage and foster creativity in children by allowing for playfulness, openness to new experience, and originality.
Components, needs, goals, and objectives theory use. At Standard 10, outlines comprehensive process for assuring conformity with all elements of the selected components of the project. The process are outlined in detail to include procedures to be implemented. Theory was explained in detail. Project Implementation Plan. A professional appearing presentation is developed that outlines a comprehensive plan for the provision of project, offers opportunity for the development of cognition, challenge to implementation are outlined in the presentation and implication are highlighted. Evaluation potential risk, sustainability. Identifies a critical issue for the learning process that will clearly impact the delivery for the projects and service. Accurately identities the objectives and goals of the project.
Components. Project Implementation Plan. Approaching Standard 5. A professional appearing presentation is developed that outlines a plan for the provision of projects. The project offers opportunities for development. Below is Standard 1. A plan for the provision of projects and services is developed. Component. Evaluation, potential risk, sustainability. Approaching Standard 5 identifies an issue for the learning process that is not likely to impact the delivery of the project and services and accurately identifies the objectives and goals of the project. Below is Standard 1 identifies a minor issue for the learning process that would not impact the delivery of service, does not accurately identify the objective and goals of the project.